Welcome to West of Tulsa. I'm CJ Ward. We are broadcasting from Studio 3 in Ventura, California, and we have a really interesting show for you today. I'm going to introduce the guys. Most of them are here. Beth is not here today. She's a little bit under the weather, so we can talk about her. We got Helm.
Good luck with that.
We got Gabe.
Watching.
We got Dan, and we got the three amigos. Three amigos. So why the show is so interesting is, and Beth came up with this idea. We figured, okay, you get people who drive cars, trucks. They live in these vehicles. They put on miles and miles. Who does that? News videographers, and we have three of them here. Herb Tuyay, chief videographer, KUIT for many, many, many years. You're now semi-retired, fair to say.
Right. Part-time.
Part-time.
And mentor.
No more.
And mentor, too. Yeah, that's right. He mentored these two gentlemen right here.
Many
Mike Tauber. Now, you're now in Los Angeles working at a TV station, right?
Yeah, I'm at ABC7.
ABC7. And Sean Browning.
Yes, sir.
You're at
KNBC.
KNBC LA.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. And you trained under
Herb.
Yoda.
Yoda. Yoda is still what we call him.
Yeah, it is. It's what everybody calls him. Half the photographers in LA were trained by
Yoda.
Herb Tuyay.
May the Porsche be with you.
Well, he sounds like him. Remember I said this would be an interesting show? That's a taste of it right there. Yeah.
I've got another
for that
Star
guy.
Wars reference for later.
Oh, do you? Okay, okay.
Wait, Yoda's Filipino? I didn't know Yoda had
He
a
is now.
I don't know if
He
you
is
know
now.
those.
You didn't see he was eating lumpia when
You guys, for a fact, the Ewoks spoke Tagalog. No, really.
These are
And
facts
Bernie
that I...
was one of them. No, they did. If you research it,
they were all nurses. All
or security
they
guards.
spoke Tagalog.
Exactly.
That goddamn Darth Vader.
You're going to love this, aren't you?
know, I
Yeah,
know.
oh, yeah.
Oh, Helm's tickle
I'm
pink.
enjoying
Oh,
this.
my God.
For sure.
That is so funny. We haven't even got to the fun stuff yet.
Exactly.
I know.
Oh, my goodness.
But
All
I'm
right.
serious, when we talk about Yoda, he really did mentor, and not just us, but like dozens and dozens of guys over the years, because he was the chief photographer at KUIT for 40 years almost.
Yeah, 38.
And he took the care to take everybody who came through his program and like knowing they were only going to be there for a couple of years because nobody can afford to live in Santa Barbara on a photog salary.
Right.
And he would give them the tools they needed and wish them well. And we all did a lot better because of him. And there are not that many people who you can say that about.
And not just that. One thing I've noticed over the years with Herb is he stays in touch with everybody.
Oh yeah.
People, and he knows everybody who's passed through the doors over the years. And I think you're awesome for that, man.
We stay in touch with
It's
him.
the iPhone and texting, you know.
Yeah. You did even before that, though. You were good at staying in touch.
Well, they'd always come back, Santa Barbara, go to Roberto's, Rudy's or something.
Rudy's, right?
Nice.
You were going to say?
No, I was gonna say Herb used to wear this. Maybe you still have it. He had a Sony shirt, and it said "Learn from the best." And ordinarily, that would be a really obnoxious sort of statement to make, but
No, but that was a T-shirt you
that
got
was-
when you went to Oklahoma.
when he went to the NPPA
NPPA,
workshop,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
But
I never
we
went. I just got a
learned
shirt.
from the best.
But you guys went there, right?
Yeah, we went.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we got the station to pay for them to go there.
No, you didn't pay for me.
I mean, they paid for the entry, but you couldn't room and board and flight.
Oh yeah.
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 But you had money.
No.
You had big visa.
oh, man.
But
Man, I don't know, man. You guys,
Herb's a legend in Los Angeles. For our bosses and people that he's never worked in Los Angeles, but his reputation and the quality of photographer. I was saying before we started, when I used to work at NBC for almost 16 years, and when I went in to apply for the job, when they saw that I was taught and learned under Herb, I did not have to show a resume reel. They were familiar with the quality of photographer that he taught and mentored, and so that was sort of like a wow moment where I was like, "Whoa, this guy's legit."
That's amazing.
You are Yoda.
I see.
I know.
Told you.
I'm going to be more famous Filipino than Joe Coy.
Yeah, exactly.
And funnier.
Or you might go on tour.
Podcast.
Or Pacquiao.
Or yeah, you might join them on the next tour, or the next visit to
jeez,
LA.
he's just going to steal my material.
Actually, I just figured out Herb ought to have his own podcast.
Oh, no.
He
no.
could totally do it.
I'd have to be silhouetted.
Man.
Silhouetted.
All right, so I didn't ask you guys, what did you drive in? We always ask our guests, what did you drive in to get here to Studio 3?
Oh, say, listen, I'm not a big car guy. To me, if it runs well, is reliable, has leg room,
Yeah,
and
leg
has
room.
a decent stereo, that's all I need in a car.
Oh, so you
Have you met Dan?
Yeah, I was
Rocket?
about to say Dan over here. That's what he does.
Yeah,
But-
I'm right there with you.
saying that, I'm a 2014 Honda Civic.
Okay, perfect. Great car. Great car.
Very practical.
And we heard Mike pull in. Would you pull in?
Well, because I'm always driving news trucks, I need to have something completely different.
An Escape.
So, an Escape. So I drove my '74 Alfa Romeo GTV.
It's gorgeous.
I didn't see it out there.
Beautiful.
You didn't?
It might have been
I'm
stolen.
in the car, so.
We're going to insert pictures of the 74 Alpha, right? Yes, it's beautiful. And then, Herb, would you drive here?
Uber.
I knew I wouldn't get a straight answer. I knew I wouldn't get a straight answer.
He came by, I said, get out, I'm driving. No, I got my Subaru.
Oh, okay.
You've always had a Subaru since I've known you.
No,
You've always owned a
there's a
Subaru.
picture of my Volkswagen van that I drove up here for my first interview.
Okay.
I don't know if you have it.
What,
It's a beautiful
What Subaru do you have?
Outback,
Nice.
2016.
And actually, that's been one of the news vehicles that we've driven
Well, it's mainly been lately.
recently.
The Foresters.
Oh, that's right.
And,
I knew it was a Subaru.
Wait, the station has Foresters?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
nice.
cool.
Yeah, and we had one Outback that was the Medford, Oregon GM. He had a souped up Outback. He didn't want it and said, just send it here tonight.
That's how we got. And they were
That's the black one that.
and they replaced the Vibes or something. What was it? They
No.
were,
Pontiac.
they were
Oh
stick
my
shift
God.
Vibes or
Pontiac
something.
Vibe.
Yeah.
We got a deal on it because there were stick shifts. And here's the problem is, so we had a whole shitload of them, right?
Yeah.
And then when we wanted to hire a videographer, we had to put in the ad,
Oh my God.
knowledge of manual transmission a plus. And nobody knew how to use them. So we actually had to train.
I know.
Didn't we have to train.
I had to train people how to drive stick besides operate the camera.
Wow. Insane.
Wait, do all camera operators have to drive the vehicles?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, really?
Well, now they got MMJs.
Yeah.
You know, the people
What's that?
that
Multimedia
MMJ?
journalists.
Yeah. People,
Oh, okay.
That's why I retired as
One they're
One-man
referred
band.
to as
Oh,
one man, one woman band.
Yeah.
Oh, I
Or
get it. I get it.
Yeah, the old term in the 80s was one-man band. Is you-
Right.
Well, because
You throw a deck on here and you throw a light belt on here and you balance yourself out and go shoot.
yeah, it's like 3-for-1 deal.
It's very cost effective.
Yeah.
Paying
Sure.
two people, but because of that, they had to go to smaller cameras because you used to
I
carry
see.
the big, you know,
Yeah.
what was that, 50 pounds at one point.
Jeez.
You know,
Yeah.
the old days with the camera and the deck,
Yep.
and so
When I was a kid, we used to have to work.
I should have brought in the gear here.
miles in the snow.
Now I just use my iPhone.
Exactly, and that's what they did.
Oh, in fact, you know Phil Ige?
Yeah.
It's another person, another photographer that was mentored. by
Okay,
me.
enough.
They
get it.
He oftentimes will use his iPhone as a supplementary camera to sort of get different angles and shots. that
Oh,
may
yeah.
be
Nice. nice.
Too difficult or maybe even as we get older, too painful to.
Yeah, I do that too.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
I don't.
Well, that's an amazing thing to know. You know how much influence and impact you've had on a lot of people's lives, especially these two gentlemen here. But I'd like to know, like, where did you start with the love to either shoot? Did it stem from photography, film photography, and then kind of graduate to videography? And I'd like to know that kind of like timeline. And then,
Are you starting with Herb because he's Filipino?
yes.
Okay.
So I want to make sure 'cause we're about to eat some adobo and some lumpia later on too,
it had
and
it-
punts it too.
It had everything to do with news cars, right? Just kidding. I thought that's what we're going to talk about. We're not here to talk about me.
No, but it's just
Talk about
amazing to
cars.
hear how much. I mean, I have to touch upon that a little bit.
I mean, with a name like Yoda, we have to ask.
exactly,
Yeah.
Something.
exactly.
And what'd you drive when you started? Maybe that's the way
Yeah,
you work
exactly.
it.
Yeah.
What were you
Yeah.
driving?
Yeah.
How'd you get into
Let's
it?
talk to Herb in relation to cars. I forgot. It was a station wagon. We had these white station wagons, and the reason they got white because the cameras, you know,
White balance.
white balance on it.
Yeah.
And so a lot of photographers in the old days had white tennis shoes because if they didn't have, they would just white balance on their
Oh
shoes.
no,
Nice.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Don't need a
Not the
card.
10% gray.
Yeah, and I remember that year we had magnetic logos, and they all ended up on refrigerators in Isla Vista. All the students would just rip them off and put them on their refrigerators. And just 40 years later, they're thinking about doing it. You know, they said, "Oh, we got to logo the cars because we don't want to do the wraps anymore."
Right.
Because those things are awful. So our engineer who's been there longer than me said we should use magnets. And I said, I just kind of end up in Iowa Vista.
Yeah.
And I told them that, and they still don't believe me. That's good. I'm going to steal one. I'll bring one here.
We'll take it. We'll take it. I mean,
I actually have magnets on my news truck
oh, you do?
because it's my news truck is a low pro, and we're probably going to jump around all over the place. But I'm currently I volunteered to drive a 2019 brand new Mercedes Metris at work. It's no logos on it, low pro. You can go through parking garages, drive-throughs, and nobody knows who you are. But when we need to be known, we just slap on the ABC logo and do our business.
Tell me when you're in town because I'm going to get one of those.
Well, explain why you want to be in an unmarked news car, because a lot of people may not understand why this is important in some areas.
As well, there's a lot of reasons, and we'll try to avoid the politics of it, at least for this purpose. But photographers, representatives of news, have become targets of not just verbal assaults, physical assaults, and we draw the ire of a lot of people by our mere presence. And so we have found that over time, if you don't know who you're harassing, you're probably less prone to harass them. You're going to see me getting out with my camera. It's obvious who I am. But if I'm not telling the entire world, hey, look at me, I'm somebody that you maybe are going to have an issue with, it just allows us to blend in a little bit better and maybe not initially create a sense of discomfort. We're showing up during people's the worst day of their life,
Or the best day of their life.
or the best.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, not as often as I would personally like to, but especially situations where there's heightened emotions, protests, riots, things like that. You show up in a news truck, which is fantastic advertising, but you don't always want to draw that kind of attention to yourself.
makes
So
sense. Yeah.
probably I would say, and I think Sean would agree, collectively as an industry, we've all sort of had to balance safety with branding and things like that. And one of the ways to mitigate that is to sort of remove some of the wrapping and again, not draw as much attention to yourself. You're still obviously, like Sean's news truck, it's still obviously a news truck. It's got the microwave, it's got the mast, it's got everything.
So gaudy.
But you're able, but if you don't have the logo on it, you're just giving yourself a tiny little bit more leeway.
Yeah.
Well, there's been for years and years. There's been a give and take between the promo department at every station, who wants to wrap those vehicles as much as they can because it's free advertising. You're driving all over. Look, there goes that Channel 7 news van. Is a classic thing. Those blue trucks that Channel 7. Now, once we had a president that started saying we're the enemy of the people. Now everything changes, and it's not just people who like, hey, it's the news truck. Now it's people who see NBC as an extension of MSNBC, which is sort of a politically, you've got a political situation there, and now we're a target for that. So after the January 6th incident, they pulled all the wrapping off of all of the NBC trucks. And I haven't had a problem since that day with anybody flipping me off or
Throwing stuff.
There's still people out there that are drawn to the news vehicles and see what that is, and they kind of know. But 99% of the people, you could be working for the phone company or something for all they know.
Well, well, if you're in LA, the secret is to say you're an influencer. They won't bother you.
They might ignore you.
I was in LA, and I was going through Rodeo Drive, and there's these people with cameras walking around talking to themselves. And I said, "What the heck is that?" And they said, "Those are influencers." I said, "What? What?"
They're our competition now.
It's nuts. But that's a good deal. I mean, I don't know if you have a picture of one of our blue news cars.
Yeah,
we're the total opposite. We're just like a walking.
We could throw up some of the old
same with
photos right now.
ABC.
We can start talking about them.
Because of the ad campaign that Sean was referring to, and I wasn't here at the time, but there was an ad campaign. I think it was in the 90s, and it was really just to represent, how present and how we're everywhere, to just show that we've got our coverage area, well taken care of. The ad campaign was "There goes that blue news van again,"
Right.
And it became part of us where it's now generational, where people that weren't even born in the 90s and weren't familiar with that ad campaign, they've heard it. And so at ABC, although we're still dealing with the same, risks and the same backlash, exactly. It's such a part of who we are, those blue news vans. When people started saying, "Hey, can we maybe take the logos and the wraps off?" They're like, "This is intrinsically wrapped into and tied into who we are. It's not just sort of like something that we can casually give away or casually give up." And so we have not done that, but we're owned by Disney, and I think that our approach and I'm not trying to promote anybody or demean anyone, but our approach is just a little bit gentler because we have that overriding Disney mentality, where we're trying to not have that same connotation of sort of negative news and that kind of thing.
Well, there's also not you don't have a cable news network that like Fox News or MSNBC
right.
where
That's
that is
exactly
tied to KABC.
You're correct.
That's going to filter down those political opinions to a local level.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, in local news, we're not touching on any of those sort of opinion-driven things. We're out there covering fires and floods and
Actual news.
city council meetings,
Things that are locally going to touch you.
The cat that's stuck up in the tree.
That's what I'm looking for.
exactly. Which that's my favorite.
That's
type
what
of
that's
story
how
to
I
show.
know. That's how I know about news is that image.
Yeah.
I'm a visual person, and I could kind of look back to my childhood, and it's that they're catching with the firemen or police. And helping the family get the.
You said you like those stories.
Yes. Absolutely.
Okay.
My favorite story.
Wait, do all three of you have a cat in a tree story?
I do.
Oh, I want to see.
I've got
many of them.
bears in the tree.
Yeah, I got a
stories.
couple.
I want to hear
Bears
the
in the
cat in the
tree.
tree story because I thought it's like it's just like a
thing, right?
cliche kind of
Mountain
thing.
lions under porches.
Yeah.
Barbara.
One of the first stories I shot in Bakersfield, they said, there's been this cat that's been up a telephone pole for 17 hours. Go out there and check it out. And I get out there, and it's freezing. It's like 25 degrees, and there's a cat. He's on top of the pole, and all the whole neighborhood is out there. And we turned it into a Nat Sound piece, which is a piece that's driven without a reporter track. It's just the Nat Sound of the situation. So I've interviewing
Nat
people,
meaning natural.
and we're hearing the cat, and I stayed there for 3 hours, and the cat finally came down after this guy's, got these friskies, and he's going, and he's finally, here comes the cat. It was my first taste of involving animals in coverage, because that's my thing is animals. You guys, it's cars. Me, it's all about
awesome.
like animals and stuff. So that was my first real piece where I thought, wow, I can do creative, cool shit, involving animals in news too. And all these
so
years,
cool.
those have been my favorite stories to shoot.
Yeah, he did a story once just on girls selling lemonade on the corner.
Or dogs that hang their heads out of the car windows, Like I did that story once with John Palminteri. It's like, why do dogs like to hang their heads out of the windows? And there's no real answer there, but everybody's got a little opinion about it. So, and it's a
What
great,
about you, Mike?
Yeah.
Oh, as
Do
far
you
as
have a cat in the tree story?
Oh, no, I've got lots of
animal?
bears in the tree stories.
Bears!
Oh yeah. The foothills, especially in like San Gabriel Valley
During the drought,
and
they just
during droughts, especially. I think we've done them in Granada Hills, and they're fairly common. But when they become intrusive, or they're maybe sticking around too often or for too long, it becomes problematic. And I mean, the bear in the story, I'll do that all day long. I think there's a misconception that as news people, we like covering, the doom and gloom and death and destruction. And maybe there's initially in the beginning of our careers, maybe that's exciting or intriguing to us. But
And part of it is you don't know when you're young. You just
absolutely.
you just don't know.
Right.
Like, what is news? Yeah.
That is correct. Absolutely. But I think the longer you do it, it emotionally wears on you. You become you get married, you have children, you can start relating more to the subjects that you're covering, and it affects you more. So I'm at a point in my career, I'm at the 24-year mark, where I all the time use the cat in the tree story, where I'm like, send me to the cat in the tree story, because it doesn't involve a crying mother. It doesn't involve some awful tragedy or anything controversial. And that's sort of what I'm.
And you don't go home with some horrible images in your head that you
correct
get out on that.
Right? Yeah, I don't have to purge
PTSD or something.
Right? Yeah. And I think a lot of us look, firefighters, law enforcement, medical EMS personnel, they're afforded mental health and support systems for the subject matter and the things that they encounter. I don't think that we really encounter that. And the interesting thing is we stick around after everybody is left. Cops and firefighters, they show up, and EMS, they show up, they get people, they arrest them, they bring them to the hospital, and then they leave. We show up afterwards, and then we get the emotion, and we talk to the mothers, and we talk to the fathers, and we talk, and that to me is far worse than seeing blood and guts on the ground.
Sure.
Sticking around and hearing the stories of the person that was just lost, that remains with you long after you go home.
Wow.
Oh man.
And I think we all have our different ways of dealing with it. I try to use humor, not because I'm being insensitive, but you have to deal with it in whatever way. Some people go home and have a drink, or some people deal with it in a different way. But for me, I try. There's the term cop humor, and it's not that law enforcement is not being sensitive, but I always say everyone's tragedy can't become your tragedy.
Yeah.
And if you're going to stand there and yes, somebody's loved one is deceased on the ground, we need to be aware of that. There's people watching. There's family that are on the corner suffering. But at the same time, we're doing our best to maintain our own sanity, so that way we can get through our day. And because tomorrow is going to be, unfortunately, probably something else that's going to be.
One of the things you probably do is you jump into your 74.
I jump correct.
Yeah, to the 74
to redirect
and drive.
There's nothing better than getting, especially in my 74 Alpha, where it's all analog. And I think Sean can relate to this because he calls himself an analog guy. What do you call yourself?
Well, it's a Rush reference, which is another analog kid, digital man.
That's correct.
I think we all are that, right?
Right.
We grew up in an analog
Yep.
age, and now we're in a digital age.
But I like going back to that though, because there's the seats are vinyl and somewhat uncomfortable. I don't have the radio, no creature comforts, no air conditioning, and so you're left with your thoughts and the road. And for me, that's and
Therapeutic.
And then the routes that you're taking, we're generally taking beautiful country roads or canyons and things like that. And so for me, just to blow out whatever sadness I've seen throughout the week, driving up here today from Thousand Oaks, it's absolutely therapeutic. And then driving these garbage news trucks for our entire careers, and for me as a car guy, I've never driven so many American Ford Econoline and what are the Nissans that we were driving?
Transits or
no, the big Nissan live trucks that we had. I don't know what they were, but
he blocked it from his memory. Is what he did.
Yeah,
Nissan live trucks.
Yeah, we were driving these big Nissan live trucks. Yeah, and so
with that's really.
Oh, wait, hold on. Yoda, what do you do? I want to know what Yoda does to deal with the trauma.
I mean, compartmentalizing. Like,
yes,
you learn how to do that, and it's mainly when things go to shit. You just do this and you just focus on your deadline. But, Santa Barbara, we had a bad string of disasters.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We had the Thomas fire, the big, we went through and Ventura got killed.
The mudslides.
And then we had the debris flow, and then we had the Conception boat thing.
And then all Rogers situation and Isla Vista.
All the fires, and then COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I couldn't compartmentalize that after a while. After a while, I just, PTSD or whatever. But, that's why I wanted to retire. Because, like before the debris flow, we interviewed this one woman, and she was joking about it and evacuating, and then the next day she was one of the people that were killed.
Oh,
You know, and Santa Barbara's not a big town. Carpinteria is like 14.
Everybody knows everybody.
Yeah, and after a while, you see everybody at the grocery store. Not like L.A. where you see someone once and then you never see them the rest of the time you do a story. But we go to school with some of these kids, and you know everybody, and it's just too hard to compartmentalize, and that's why it got to the point where I don't need to do this anymore.
But I know what he does. He hasn't said it yet, but I know exactly what you do to decompress.
What's that? Send sunset photos?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, he walks the beach with his dogs. Or I don't. Do you have
No, they're
your
all
dogs?
gone.
But that's what he did. He would walk the beach with his dogs, take pictures of sunsets, and send it back in. And we'd use it on our weather shots. It'd be like, weather shot. If you're a viewer, send us in your beautiful sunsets. And there's Herb Tuyay.
Yeah, before it was my dog's Sundance. It was sunset with Sundance, and the weather guys would put it.
Yeah.
in 2024, you'd be a huge influencer just posting pictures of sunsets on your
right.
Instagram feed.
Oh yeah,
But he's not wearing.
You didn't even know it.
I can make a Filipino 50-year calendar.
Sign me up.
Go backwards. Sundays only.
Yeah.
Holiday obligation.
I think our Filipino audience is going to skyrocket.
Yes.
This one.
Helma's very happy about
Oh my gosh.
If you need a laughing audience, all you have to do is have two Filipinos in it. Look at these guys. They're laughing at everything we say.
No laugh track.
No wonder Joe Coy is so popular. We got Filipinos in the audience.
Hey, Dan, let's throw up some of the old photos since we're talking about old photos and what these guys are talking about, what they were driving. So if we can pop, it doesn't matter where we start, but
Yeah, go as old as you can.
I think it's going to be Sean. I think is one of the first ones. I think he's going to be like pole dancing or something like that.
That sounds like Sean.
Is that the one? Yeah, there he is. There's
There he
Sean
is.
on top of the KUIT live van. This is what Sean, tell us about this.
Well, so KUIT used to have one live van. And I don't think the beauty of working in Santa Barbara was that you could go out and shoot your story and be anywhere in Santa Barbara County and come back to the station and edit it in their cool little editing bay where everybody worked together. Now in LA...
And still go back out.
In LA, I work out of the one truck, and it's my office. I've had it for years, and it's my rolling office, and I'll pick it up at the beginning of the day, go cover my story, and then bring it back at the end of the day. I don't even come to the station because there's too much driving, right?
Yeah.
It's too big a coverage area. So with that picture, that's the one live truck we had, and OSHA, this was before OSHA rules would have applied because
It's now a
I for
fireable
sure
offense.
would be fired if they ever saw me at Channel 4
And that's one of
standing
the-
on top of
Well,
live.
that's a Ford, right? The Ford Econoline.
I
Is that
think
what
this
you
was a Econoline, yeah.
Those platforms are actually designed for us to go on top and shoot.
They used to have little rails around.
Right, and they had
Yeah.
grill where you step on it, you couldn't slip. So yeah, people would do that. But
Well, I mean, it's from a vantage point perspective, like that gives you a good 8-10 feet above whatever you're trying to shoot.
Well, that's the live van I would stand on at Halloween in Isla Vista, and because there were so many people that
Right.
you'd have to get up there to do the live shot, and you could actually stand up on that little platform area. But then everybody gets drunk and starts rocking you, and then you're trying to hold on for dear
Right.
life until
Well,
the cops
good thing you're a
show up.
surfer.
and-
You could, balance. Surfer, So
that's how I got into surfing. But,
And for people who don't know, that mast was the way we transmitted news for years, 30, 40 years. That was the transmission source. It's a microwave transmitter that you would aim to a mountaintop, and that would get the information back to the station. Now we're onto a new technology that's all driven by cell cards. It's called CB&G technology, and
Cellular bonded news gathering,
Right.
CBNG.
and now it's just a device like this, pops on the back of the camera, and now you're going live. So
Oh wow.
all this
Completely changed
technology,
what we did.
we still have these
Completely.
trucks because they spent a whole lot of money on these trucks, but the new gen trucks don't have any.
So
of
you're
this
broadcasting from the camera, not from the van.
Essentially, well, they're portable. These devices.
you can go to fourth floors and go live.
Yeah, basically it's wireless technology. You're plugging your camera into this device, which either can be worn as a backpack or can attach directly to the back of the camera.
Wow.
And we are no longer tethered to a van where we were limited by however long our cable was.
Oh, you're literally tethered to the
You're
van.
literally tethered to
Yeah.
the van, but
Wow.
now it also has its limitations, this technology, because if we don't have a cell signal, like when they send us up to the mountains or something because there's a hiker that needs to be rescued or some incident, we're so accustomed to having good bandwidth in most of the places that we go, you tend to get a little complacent and you're like, oh, wait a minute, there's no cell service here, which means this technology, this piece of equipment is rendered useless.
or a situation where you're in the middle of thousands and thousands of people, and
everyone's
everybody's
sucking up
going
the
like
bandwidth.
this.
Yeah.
You're fighting with them for the same cell
bandwidth.
towers.
You don't-
wow.
You guys don't have a dedicated hotspot that you have to.
They the newer
prioritize.
live, we have priority, but sometimes it drops off. Like you would never want to try to go live in the middle of a big demonstration or something like that.
Wow.
With it, you would want to use a microwave truck in that situation because that's never gonna that line of sight back to the station.
Yeah.
Nothing's gonna break that once you establish.
And during an earthquake or some natural disaster, cellular is not going to be reliable.
No.
Whereas the microwave towers that we have all across Southern California, literally on top of mountaintops, they're self-powered with generators, and they don't need to be reliant upon.
And they're dedicated to
Correct.
each station.
Yeah, and we used
you
to
don't
we used
share
to
it.
ricochet you could take that instead of line of sight, we could ricochet
Bounce off buildings.
Yeah, in downtown in Phoenix, we used to bounce off buildings. We'd ricochet the.
Oh, we do that in LA still.
Cool.
We don't use it too often anymore because there's great bandwidth in downtown LA. But
Right.
when this technology was still sort of on the, hadn't been fully worked out, we would bounce off buildings all the time, and you wouldn't even necessarily know. And the engineer or people back in the control room or that were dialing in our live shots, they'd be like, "Well, I got a strong signal," and you're sitting there looking at the microwave dish, and you're like,
It's the wrong direction.
I'm pointing 180 degrees away from where I should, but somehow it's all sort of bouncing back.
Yeah, you say, how did you get a live shot out?
And you're like,
And the people in that building's probably getting a tingle saying, what the heck?
right.
Radiation.
Pacemakers going off.
Well, and here's the other thing about the those live vans with the huge antenna. They were extremely dangerous. Because if you got it fully extended, and some people made the mistake of trying to move the van while it was up and would hit a power line.
Oh, yeah.
Boom! It would blow up.
How many feet does it go up? What is the
70.
cap?
Mine was 47 feet.
Wow.
Yeah. There was a famous incident in L.A. where it was a KABC truck. The operator put their mast up into some power lines. And
Yeah, they're on the curve too, so
Yeah.
it was an angle.
It was
I
touching
didn't
the-
realize it was going this way. So,
but they were underneath power lines.
yeah,
right?
you don't get that close.
And a reporter was really badly injured when she got out of the truck, completed the path of the the electricity going through the ground, went through her arm and through her leg.
Oh, she completed the circuit.
She grounded. She was holding on to
Her name,
part of part of the van with her hand, and so it created a ground from the power line all the way down.
Lost the arm and the leg.
Wow.
She lost. She had some extraordinarily traumatic injuries, but
internal injuries as well.
internal.
Yeah.
It burns, and then there were some physical injuries where she had to have part of her extremities unfortunately removed. But I ended up working with this woman. And
Adrienne Alpert.
Adrienne Alpert is her name. Wonderful woman, amazing reporter, legendary. She retired maybe 3 years ago, but she got right back out. Once she was physically capable, no worse for the wear.
Wow.
I would have remained on the couch for the rest of my life. I don't know how she was able to.
I didn't realize that she came.
We would watch at NBC as part, because I worked there for a long time. They actually have, as part of the training video, to remind us how dangerous it is, putting this mast up. And there was video of that incident, and you saw smoke coming out from the bottom of her high heels. It was awful, and I think look, it's by the grace of God that we've all, especially earlier in our careers, we've all done little things because it's a time-sensitive business, and it's constant contact in order to raise these masts, which is just with compressed air.
Oh, okay.
And standing there sometimes with your finger on the switch maybe isn't the most efficient thing to do, and so nobody does this anymore. They definitely shouldn't. We would stick a dollar bill or something to sort of jimmy the switch, so we could now start pulling out other camera gear.
The way I
Yeah,
understand
but they
it-
were designed that way so you wouldn't.
well.
You would be watching it.
Right.
Oh, got it.
The incident with Adrian Albert changed the way all that
Yeah.
went.
Yes.
So up until that point, you had a switch that you could just flick and the mask would go up. Up till that point, and then afterwards,
Yeah,
I believe.
exactly.
Okay.
They changed
now
it.
you have two buttons, up and down, and the up one you have to keep your finger on in order for that mask
Okay,
to
I
go up.
forgot,
So
yeah.
you're looking the whole way. That was
could
a
default.
moment in time where everything changed.
Changed.
Going
Right.
forward.
Yeah, that's the reason why.
Okay, right.
You know, and those things. It takes a while to set those things up.
Yeah.
You know, you would get there at least an hour ahead of time because you never knew if you couldn't even park near where the camera was.
Wow.
And if you couldn't park near the camera, you had to string 200 feet of cable through a bunch of people or sidewalks and under cars. And then, worry about skateboarders or rollerbladers.
And you guys are doing all the cabling, all this because you don't have gaffers helping you out. Or
No,
anything,
no,
right?
yeah, it's all by yourself.
us.
It's Santa Barbara, especially if you didn't have.
Well, even in LA, it's
Well, there was a point in TV news where a live truck or a satellite truck, for example, you'd have a crew. You'd have an engineer, you'd have an audio guy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously, as the years went by, positions eliminated, and then you ended up, down to
right. It's
an
like
MMJ
four
with an iPhone.
person job went down to a 1 person.
Exactly.
Job.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well,
But-
with that 4-person job kind of dwindling down to a one-man band, as you would say, with you setting up everything and then you being the driver, has that made you guys better drivers in where you might be speeding to get the coverage, or like as we relate it back to cars, right?
Yes.
You guys
Yeah.
driving around town
Yeah.
finding the thing. I mean, are you guys conscious of like, oh, we need to get there, and so are you breaking rules?
Have any of you drifted a truck?
Drifting?
There is video, not here, in another state of I think 2 competing networks that are doing like a drag in their live truck. you can go on YouTube and you can actually find it.
Awesome.
well, yeah.
I heard those guys are both let go from their station.
I have no doubt about that.
When I was an intern, like in '84, we had these Ford Broncos, and then they had the mast on top, and talk about top heavy.
Oh, jeez. That sounds.
And so I was working with a photographer who's a foreign Vietnam vet, right? And he left the other station, our competitor, because he hit a producer in the face.
That'll do it.
And then we hired the guy because everybody didn't like that producer, even from the other station. But the the CBS station had a guy had worked with him. His name was Charlie, and he was sort of agnostic because he was the only photographer who wore a tie, and we would do interviews. And back then I was the audio guy, and so here's this Vietnam vet, and we're always listening. And we have scanners, so we're listening to the other stations talking to each other on the radio, saying, "Okay, there's a fire here, or there's an accident, or get over there." And our goal was to always try to get there before them. So it was crazy. So we're in this car, and then here's this Vietnam vet says, "Oh, where's Charlie?"
Oh, jeez.
we got to get to this fire, Herb. Where's I'm going through the Thomas guide. We got kids don't even know what a Thomas guide is now. Herb, you don't even know you're the worst Thomas guide. And we're driving, and we drove and we went between 2 cars. We went on 2 wheels at one point.
Oh, wow. God.
And back then, I think cops let the media
There was a
park
little
in the red.
little
leeway.
Yeah.
Oh, leeway.
Yeah.
I was going to ask, is
Professional courtesy.
I was going to ask, is there any professional courtesy?
Oh yeah.
so
Well,
to
sometimes
speak?
at night you get there and they don't have lights. So turn on your light. So
Yeah, there's professional courtesy to an extent. But look, we're still representing networks. We have no legal authority to drive
This has
differently
changed.
than anyone else. And so, there's always that balance between maintaining a safe speed, but also getting there to your story in a prompt, fashion. And adrenaline's going, and you want to be the first one to get there. And so I think all of us have found that if you get that tunnel vision for a while, all of a sudden you look down and you're doing 80.
Yeah.
And
Right.
you're making good time, but you're not in a sports car. You're in a top heavy Ford Econoline, and especially back in the day, you were advertising.
Yeah.
And so
So if you're driving like a jerk, everybody's
Right,
going to know.
exactly.
Oh, city driving too.
Right. And so, but I think with the, in the Los Angeles market, we have 50,000 square miles of coverage area, 50,000 square miles. And the amount of time that we spend on the roads and the amount of mileage that we sort of rack up in the course of a week, a month, a year. We see everything, and because we're in a higher profile vehicle, elevated, we're able to look down into cars. We see what's going on in the cars, and so I mean, I like to look, not because I'm nosy, but I think it's interesting to see what's going on. Now, certainly, you just see a lot of texting and things like that, but we'll try keeping it PG. But I've seen everything. Looking down from the vantage point in a live van, looking down into somebody's car. Yeah,
we aren't PG, by the way.
Well,
I would say, at the time when you're using the Thomas guides, and I know what that reference is to, because I may look young, but I am.
You don't look young.
You read books,
but I know before Google Maps and Waze, I know you guys have some. Shortcuts with alleyways and certain routes that you guys take, because I have LAPD friends and they know certain areas where I'm like, oh, I'm going to take that route next time because I could cut across, and it's those things that
like a homeless encampment. You cut across a homeless encampment, kind of thing. Or
well, you have amassed that knowledge of the streets and the route.
Yeah, I think news people were taking the right turns before UPS did.
Exactly. Exactly.
You develop habits on your personal life too, because. Like, I'll be at home, let's go see the movies, and we're a little late, and I'll be driving through gas stations. And my wife's going, what are you doing? Because I knew all the shortcuts through town. Santa Barbara is pretty easy. It's small.
It's pretty easy.
Once you learn the one-way streets, you got your pass to get.
I'm sure a lot of our listeners probably still, like I asked you guys earlier, realizing that cameramen actually drive their own vehicles now. Now knowing that, is there any compliance or training for that the station does?
Oh, absolutely.
That makes you qualify for? And
absolutely.
Like that? Oh, wow. That's cool.
Absolutely. I think Sean can confirm this.
Yeah, he was a chief in LA. The policy.
Yeah. It's a critical part of what we do. Obviously we're journalists. We're there to capture the story. But we need to get there. So that frankly, I mean, in Los Angeles, we spend more time driving than actually covering news, and so it's just getting to the story. It's like I sometimes feel like 80% of my day has nothing to do with journalism, nothing to do with photography or editing or lighting or telling a story at all. It's simply getting from point A to point B safely.
Talk about what a typical day would be. You go in, you find out. I mean, what kind of route would you take? You go from the Riverside County down to Orange County and back into. Talk about what an average day might be like.
Yeah, and part of let's see, like you're getting back to the nav situation.
Yeah,
it's also knowing when to not listen to Waze. And look at there's no way if you route me up La Cienega is going to be any faster than me taking this. So there are
That's a Jedi mind trick. Did you get that from Yoda?
I don't. LA, I stay away.
There are still like shortcuts. Merely skipping 3 lights that are going to be left turns or something can make 20 minutes off the.
No, that's cool.
Yeah, but as far as like in a given day, I go pick up my news truck. Some guys take their trucks home with them, particularly if they live in like outlying areas. Like if you live out in Ventura or Lancaster or somewhere, they'll want you to take your truck home with you because then they can call on you to go shoot the story out in Lancaster
at 2:00 in the morning.
Get there faster.
So, but me, I live in Burbank, so I go pick up my vehicle. I load up. We have a half hour of time in the morning to do a whole checklist of stuff. We check the oil, check the tire pressure.
What?
We don't have to do that at ABC.
Yeah, it's a thorough.
We hire
list of
people.
Things that we have to.
MMJ won't even check the gas.
So we get a half hour to do that, and then I call the desk, and then they give me my assignment for the day. And most of the time, it'll be meeting a reporter out somewhere. Lately, it was the skyscraper in downtown LA that's been spray painted by all those people. Yeah. Which that story, what a cluster that is. That's going to go on for years and years.
Yeah.
So I was out there covering that pretty much like for 3 or 4 days in a row. Or the floods recently. I was up here in Santa Barbara covering those.
And that's an interesting one because they had you come all the way up here.
Yeah.
So Sean calls. He goes, "Yeah, I'm going to be up in Santa Barbara. I'm covering the anticipated flooding or whatever it is.
Well, we didn't know what track the storm was.
It was supposed to nail us.
Right. Yeah.
But it ended up hitting L.A.
Yeah, so we had we booked
here.
a hotel here for the night in Santa Barbara and thought, oh, we're good because the last time I got cut off, I couldn't get back to L.A. because there was the whole freeway was shut down at Carpinteria.
Yeah.
And I thought, yeah, this is great. The next day, they're like, come back because the storm tracked southern, like more southernly and went straight through L.A. and Orange County and everything. And
You had a
that's
free
where all
day
the
in Santa
damage
Barbara,
was.
though. Yeah.
It was nice, yeah.
Get breakfast at
You can never
Sambo's.
be too beholden to any story because,
As much as you plan for any story, it's never going to, they can do all this planning and throw everything against the wall and it might happen over here, like.
or a
you
news
just never
story, or new breaking news, or in unfortunately Los Angeles, a high-speed pursuit, where you can put an entire day's worth of work, where everyone's jumping through hoops, and you interview people, you've edited, you're ready to go, and pursuits happen more, I think, statistically more often at night, and so for those of I usually work the night shift from around 2 p.m. to roughly midnight. And it happened 2 days in a row in LA, where right when the 11 o'clock news starts, after you've done your work, you've kicked butt, you've overcome technical problems or whatever it is, only to have a high-speed pursuit take over the newscast, and so the story you sort of sweated over all day never sees the light of day.
Really?
Yeah, and it hurts initially, but over time you get used to it.
You're being paid the same, and it'll air on the morning show.
Well, often,
And everybody's asleep.
Yeah. By the way, this is what happened yesterday.
right. Some stories are what we call evergreen, where it's not necessarily timely, where it needs to air now.
Yeah.
But some stories, it's like, this even 12 hours later, it's like, this is old news now. It really doesn't have a place in the newscast anymore. So. And I always give a disclaimer now to people, because people that we're interviewing or people that want to watch, and I always say, hey, this is going to air at 11, but with the disclaimer that news is fluid, and if there's a high-speed pursuit in Los Angeles, that's going to take precedence. And I apologize. I know you called out from work. You drove an hour to get here, to talk to us, and we appreciate, all of the efforts. But look, we're in a ratings-based business, and people like to watch high-speed pursuits. And I think we can all have our own individual, perspectives on that. But statistically and according to ratings, that's what people want to watch. And so,
OJ started that.
Thank you, OJ.
Thank you, OJ.
I thought you were gonna. I thought you were gonna say that each of us have our own personal high-speed pursuit that we've.
Have it?
I
Well,
have
not
on
you,
the
Hal.
4 or 5.
You drive slow as shit.
So, yeah,
so,
I got a speed limit.
Yeah, usually when they catch the guy and then the cops are like this and this and they got him down, then he's down and it's cleared. Then you see all these photographers, the cameras.
Because we still have to follow the speed limit. We're not cops.
Yeah,
We still-
yeah.
I had a situation with.
It's the closest you ever got.
Well, when I was working at NBC with I think he's one of our favorite reporters at NBC, Robert Kovacic. There was a pursuit with a tow truck driver, and he was in the Hollywood area, right near the Hollywood Bowl, and he was sort of meandering, sticking in sort of the same area, and we got close, and then we had the chopper overhead, sort of directing us, saying, "Hey, he's making a left here," and then at one point, the chopper pilot's like, "Oh no, he's turning around." And so we ended up turning around, and we get to a stoplight at the same time. And so there's the pursuit. And thankfully, he's following some traffic laws. He's at a stoplight, and I pull up next to him with the cops behind him, and my reporter next to me in the passenger seat is trying to interview him. And I'm sitting there like this, like, I don't know if the guy's got a gun. I don't know what his situation is. And my reporter's, he's doing his job. But, I'm a little bit more cautious about these things, and I can see how sideways this could go. And, and my reporter's like, why don't you just pull over? Why don't you, and think, why aren't you pulling over? And he did not end up pulling over. He didn't listen to the urging of my reporter.
Was he even answering questions though?
Yeah, he was answering questions.
Wow.
But again, it was
But it wasn't recorded.
I think it was recorded from the chopper, but not recorded. If I remember, I think there was footage of us side by side, in the news truck next to this, whack job. But
yeah, if you had an iPhone, you would have got it.
yeah. Well, frankly, if I was a better journalist, I would have. But I didn't want to be driving with a cell phone. That's also against policy.
No, the reporter had one.
Yeah, no, I don't recall whether he busted that out, but that was just one of those situations where you can find yourself on the wrong side of things or in a wrong position very quickly, and sometimes it's because you're again your adrenaline, you're trying to get the shot, and you're not always thinking safety, personal safety. You're thinking, I want to get the shot, I want to get the story. But then, especially with me, as I've gotten older, I'm a dad now and a husband, and I have other people counting on me. I have definitely reeled it in, and the stuff that I used to be gung-ho about is much more, I have to think about it a lot more. And so I'll leave it to the single guy, if you get taken out, no one's going to miss you.
Hey, Dan, let's look more of those old photos. We've only seen one, and we got a whole bunch of them. Let's talk. I think
all right.
we start off with Sean. I think we had Sean at the pole. Yeah, he's pole dancing.
Pole dancing Sean.
Look at the
And then
skinny legs.
and let's try and maybe skip through them fairly quickly because we're. Oh, there you go, Sean.
What's going on here,
Now,
guys?
that's a news vehicle in Santa Barbara. That's a KUIT Izuzu what?
Trooper.
Yeah, those things are
Right down
Tin
there on
cans.
is that state? No, what's this? Right by the
Coda?
pier there?
Cabrillo.
Cabrillo.
Yeah,
Cabrillo
Cabrillo.
Boulevard.
Yeah, and with the Sambos there in the background. I don't know. It's just.
You can tell it's after a storm, right?
Yeah.
Well,
Doing storm coverage.
Those were our first quote unquote SUVs.
Were they four-wheel drive?
No, they were
really?
tin cans. I remember I was parked one time and I was with the sports reporter and we were ready to back out and all of a sudden we just heard this tin can crunching. And he said, "What's going on?" And we turned around. This old lady's backing into the Izuzu. And it said, "Oh man, this car. We got to get rid of these cars."
Oh man,
But they were cheap, and we thought we were cool because we were at least, some
A little.
of the flooding level.
Right.
Oh yeah.
is that like maybe mid '90s, early '90s?
93.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah,
Maybe, yeah.
Let's check out the next photo. There we go. Oh, there he is again. Oh, this is a handoff, right?
Yeah, this
then
is
you got
a
a
handoff.
Pathfinder.
That gentleman on the left is Kent Wilhoit. He just recently retired from
Big guy.
KNTV up in the Bay Area.
Bay Area, right.
But he was a great guy. This was him handing over the camera, sort of the passing of the baton, if you will.
And the
where I took over his. That's a what is that?
That's a Pathfinder.
Nissan
yeah.
Pathfinder.
And that was there when I was there.
I think, didn't you do trade outs for most of these vehicles?
I didn't do them, but they did. Yeah.
they would do an ad deal, and we're getting a new Pathfinder because we gave them a bunch of ads. For
Ad
their-
time.
Yeah,
From a Nissan
that's
dealer.
Bartering with cars.
Yeah,
all
we have
right.
fleets of one kind of thing.
Oh,
Because
okay.
one day we would get a Subaru, a Isuzu, and the next we would get a Dodge, and then we get a Mitsubishi.
And it was whatever was sitting on the lot that they probably couldn't get rid of, or
Right.
something they were willing to
give them
give
some
up
free
because they were getting
advertising.
free advertising.
Yeah.
Right.
Ah, interesting.
So you don't end up with the best stuff that way either. But this is a good.
That one's a good
Yeah.
one, though.
Yeah,
This was the first news vehicle I ever worked out of, as a
Bakersfield?
Ram Charger in Bakersfield, California. Yeah, and we can talk about my shoes or
Oh yeah.
Is that you check? We're checking white balance on those shoes.
sure. Yeah, well,
Are those New Balance shoes? It'd be cool if you check white balance on your New Balance.
Yeah,
original Air Jordans or something like that.
in San Diego we had Bronco versions of those, but then we had the microwave on top, and then all the gear. So it was so top heavy.
Wow.
Oh yeah.
It was like it was.
See, you can still see here. This is still during the Ford Econovan
Era.
this was Michael Jackson's. After he died, this was everybody camped outside of his house
Neverland.
for a week. and
Neverland Ranch, right?
You guys-
and San
were-
Ynez there.
Were there the whole time? You never left? You just parked there?
Those trucks were there for 4 or 5 days. People would sometimes you would
Everyone
bring
stayed in Santa Maria.
Somebody would supply gas to these vehicles.
Whoa.
Yeah,
And
Wow.
And those
Rotate-
are those are not live trucks. Those are sad trucks.
Those are
Is that
all
like-
sad
Some are sat trucks. I do see on the side the NBC live truck.
in the middle there with the
Oh, yeah.
mask
Yeah.
that's up.
And then on the far
yeah.
right,
Wow.
you can see the.
You were able to get a live shot out there if you bounced it off broadcast
Yeah.
peak,
Yeah.
but you had to have like a 70-foot mast or something.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's right in front of Neverland.
Oh,
Hey,
All right, what's happening
that's
here?
not a-
I got to know what's happening here.
Oh, that was at last year's Oscars. I was I don't know.
No, you were.
Let's move past that.
I thought these
He
were
was
just
actually
supposed to-
being. He was used as the model for the Oscar because he didn't have any genitalia.
like a GI Joe.
He's posing.
Yeah, I was also used for Ken and Barbie dolls.
Yeah, he's posing proud there.
Yeah, I'll be doing that again in another 2 weeks or so. I'll see if I can.
Should have
send
had the
it.
roses
Yeah.
play somewhere else.
All right, who's breaking into the news?
Well, it's funny. I just took a picture of this. We brought it to our Ford service thing, and they locked themselves out of it.
That sounds about right for a four-wheeler.
So I learned how to get in. They said, "Yeah, this is how you get in if you get locked out."
And what's the story at the black door?
Oh, that car we bought that used from KCBS.
And it had they have black.
I don't know.
Their
and we
color.
could only afford to paint half of the van.
Low budget.
I don't know. Maybe they were trying to, those car chases caught up with them. They tried to paint the cars like
That looks like a
HP
replacement
cars.
for sure.
There we go. That's the classic.
Oh no.
Yeah.
This is, I think, what most of us in this era of news gathering and journalism, that is what we've been in the longest.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
so,
okay.
and I have to say that this was, I think, the Triton V10.
Yeah, the V10, right?
The V10.
This is an Econoline 350.
Yes.
Is that what
Yeah.
it is?
Yeah, and these things
Safe.
were the workhorses for many years. And not being an American car guy, I became intimately familiar with these Ford vans, and I can say they were reliable.
Yeah.
We beat the shit out of them. We would run them all day long without turning them off.
Wow.
They would also have the generator in the backs.
Wow.
These things would be
And the big batteries too.
big batteries, all the tech stuff.
You charge it 3-4 ways.
Yeah, no. I hats off to Ford. They don't make this one anymore. Otherwise, we would have still stuck with them.
Wow.
Wow. Built Ford tough, huh?
Yeah.
We destroy, and then if an engine blew, just plug and play, just put a new one
Wow.
in, and
Yeah.
like at NBC, we would sometimes just put new engines in and the same body and the same frame and the same tech and everything like that.
What kind of miles would you guys put on one of these in a year? Like, give me a guess.
Oh, in a year?
Yeah, in a year. What kind of miles do you guys drive in this thing?
KBC, well, they had a policy of selling them once they got 150,000.
Mine
Not
is
anymore.
360
Oh,
right
geez.
now.
Wow.
Whoa.
He's probably two engines in.
Yeah, they did change the engine.
But how many years is that 360 though?
10, 12 years.
Oh, okay.
Mine's on the very last leg.
So you guys aren't piling on high miles. You're putting on ambulance miles, like start, stop, start, stop, start, stop. Like
Right.
really intense on the vehicle,
Plus,
right?
If you look on this vehicle in the bottom right, you see there's a hatch there for a
Yeah.
generator.
Yeah.
The next gen trucks after these all were powered off a MEP system, which had a belt that went around the alternator.
Oh.
And so
a
it created,
big alternator.
created all the electricity for the truck off the engine.
Wow.
So that's why you're idling all day long because you're powering
Charging it.
all the racks and back
Right.
and all the electricity you need is powered off the truck engine rather than the generator like that.
So when these vans break down, what do you guys do with them? Do you guys have
They sell 'em to
mechanics?
KYT.
Or
Yeah, that's
you sell them to KYT? That's the deal.
Or they end up in like movie. There are places
used-
where they'll rent them out for movies and stuff.
Right.
You'll see
After
'em-
they're
Motion picture,
retired.
motion picture.
Yeah.
But on a day-to-day, though,
Oh, on
if
the
your van
day-to-days,
breaks, like what happens?
Oh, I mean, like I think it's happened to all of us.
You just go to the dealer? Or
Well, no, I mean we have to. We're not allowed to change the tires, and so even something as simple as not even a union thing. I think it's just a safety thing.
Right.
For,
Yeah.
Unless unless been specifically trained on how to properly change.
Those things are heavy because of
They're heavy.
Right,
Can't
right.
use a jack on it.
Yeah, but we'll have just a flatbed come and pick up the vehicles. But
Okay.
in and of itself, that's difficult because they're so high profile. They sometimes have to do some street side mechanic work where they're removing the drivetrain. They're removing, they're doing things like that just to get it up on
On the
because
truck. Yeah.
you figure without the mast up. I think roughly they're around 10 feet, 4 inches around there.
8,000 pounds, right?
Right, and so that always has to be considered when we're being towed somewhere. You know that there's no low overhangs or anything like that, and so there's a lot that has to be factored into what is just maybe a simple, issue now becomes a logistical sort of nightmare, because how are we going to get this vehicle underneath that overpass when we don't have the clearance for
But
it?
is it contract labor, or do you guys have in-house,
we have
each station?
we have.
mechanics, or-
Well, we may even use the same. Like we used to use Sunset Tow, and I'm not
They're
sure
big.
who we use now. We use Park
It's
House
contract,
we use Park House to do our street side tire changes, where they have all extra wheels with tires for our vans, and we use the Michelin X. Like they're the top of they're expensive. The Michelin XT
Tires.
Yeah, they're really good, as opposed to the Kirkland that they used to use at KUIT.
Tell me about it. One time we went to this one local place, and they weren't used to. So we take the van. I'm following the van, and the first turn I see the wheels going. I said, "Turn around, let's go back." But that van, just talk about how safe they were. John Palminteri and Oscar, they flipped in that thing,
geez.
and they walked away. I mean, they went to the doctors, but
There was a blown tire.
It was a blown tire,
yeah,
right?
blown tire. And the car went into some ice plant, and it got stuck, and it just flipped.
Dang.
And everything got destroyed.
And the thing about that was John was in the back editing or logging for one of his stories. So I don't. Was he even strapped in?
No, the seatbelts on those things.
Okay, yeah.
I know that's
but he
not
was,
allowed.
He
in
was.
LA.
He's back there where he has really probably not looking out a window. Probably he's got his head down, and all of a sudden,
The whole world's rotating 360 degrees.
They flipped twice.
yeah.
That's crazy.
That's terrifying.
Yeah, and they survived it. I mean, that platform, I think that's really sturdy.
But you figure how much sort of gear that's not secured in a van, whether it's battery chargers, the camera itself, personal belongings. I mean, that could have, if the accident
lucky.
didn't hurt you, the flying debris.
They got
lucky.
You guys buy a tripod or something?
Do you guys carry extra gasoline tanks? Oh no. Okay. Now, with that question though,
There's a fun one.
The Blazers, those were legendary.
The Filipino Auto Convention model.
That's up now. That's our back patio.
Yes.
TV station.
That's the legendary patio view from TV Hill.
view.
What were you doing there? What is this like a promo shoot or something? Or
Tried to recreate a Chevy commercial. Now that's the Broncos I was telling you about. That's my brother. He saw me at a story we were doing. I don't know what he was doing.
Oh, that's not
Nice
the Vietnam
short.
vet.
No, that's my brother.
Everyone loves the nut hugger.
What happened to his knee? Like, why is his knee bandaged up?
He just had a trick knee.
Huh?
But it had
Okay.
nothing to do. He wasn't a news guy. He was just.
He just happened to be there. And
Yeah.
he said,
So you drove around with that rig always?
Yeah, that's the one that teetered left.
Well, sure, it teetered.
That thing is. It had a mast too.
Oh my!
wow.
So those things were like dangerous.
Yeah, I can see,
dude.
I can see that.
As OSHA sort of got more aware of this stuff.
You can see the wheels are jacked up even more too.
Oh my! God.
So that's a KCST on the side. Is that now KNSD?
Yeah,
NBC?
it's Channel 7 now.
Okay, all
In
right.
San Diego.
All right, what's going on
That's
with
a
this?
Mitsubishi, I don't know.
Montero?
Montero, yeah. The goofy thing about that was a little top heavy too, but they had this ball on the console.
Oh, to live,
It-
I
this
remember
ball.
that.
Oh yeah, the
And so
grab
when-
the level thing.
Yeah, so when you went this way, there's a tipping point, right?
That's right.
And so we're going up the San Padre Mountains or going up.
Two-door SUV?
Yeah.
yeah.
It's like a Defender.
It wasn't even a all-wheel drive, I don't think. Too.
Oh
but-
my goodness.
Yeah. So I thought, with that ball, I can go anywhere, right?
Oh wait, I see the badge. It says Raider. So that was the Chrysler version. It's the same vehicle. It's just a Chrysler version.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh wow.
That's
Yeah,
funny.
because I worked at a Mitsubishi dealership during this era,
Dan, the non-car
and it was
guy.
like,
But he knows. He knows.
Yeah,
he
Dan knows what's up.
well, I sold them. I'm not into them,
That's
but I did
a cool
sell
body.
them. So,
Yeah, just like the vibes in the Matrix, right?
yeah, and the
God.
Colt, the little Colt. They had a Dodge Colt, and then they had a Mitsubishi. I can't remember what Mitsubishi
Yeah,
called.
they had a-
Same little
The
vehicle.
Dodge Omni.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, they had all kinds of.
We had one of those, a Dodge
No, you
Omni.
didn't.
I like
Yeah, we had a Dodge Omni car.
It is kind of cool.
That was
Where's your
awful.
dignity?
Yeah, we had a
1980 something. This
That's a Pathfinder.
Oh, that's a Pathfinder.
That's a
I love that
Pathfinder.
one. It
Okay.
was black. And it was,
Nice.
The nice logo wasn't too gaudy.
You look like a baby there, man. Look at that.
Is that a CB radio?
Yeah, two-way radio. Back then, we had to talk.
We still have those. In
Yeah.
fact, we need those for when all hell breaks loose and we cannot rely on
Cell
all,
service.
all the modern ways of communication. We just go old school.
Oh,
Analog,
yeah, I
man.
like that.
Can't be
That's
analog, dude.
exactly.
Oh yeah, 9/11. That's the only way they communicated. All the cops.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
Firemen.
yeah.
It was two-way radios.
You know, Herb, I just remembered.
That's COVID.
That's
side.
COVID.
Are you sure?
He's about to rob a bank.
So was that one of your kids or your wife? Like you couldn't make it to work that day? It's
just-
like doesn't matter. It
My
could be
friend's
anyone.
ID.
Could be anyone.
Herb, I just remember driving. There was a lost hiker up in the Los Padres. Up
One of many.
up to 154, and being a young journalist that wasn't familiar with heavy vans and driving downhill with a heavy
Ooh,
van.
yeah.
I got the brakes got so soft. They were glowing red when I was coming down. One of these switchbacks. Up near the East Camino Cielo or something in Santa Barbara.
Yeah.
And I lost all braking power. But I was too inexperienced and young to know that if I just gave it time, let
Your
it
brakes will come back, right?
And so I can't even imagine what the tow bill was, but we had a tow truck come and take my sorry ass and my reporter back down all these windy switchbacks. And whatever it cost KUIT, I'm sorry, but that was you have those kind of situations, and all these vehicles have their limitations, and we're oftentimes pushing them, not necessarily speed wise, but again, we're running them for long hours. We're start and stop. We have to go where the news is, and these vehicles oftentimes aren't meant to go where we're trying to send them.
Sure.
And I know at NBC there was some other lost hikers somewhere, and we had there was like a press conference, and we had to go up this dirt road with like a sheer 1,000-foot drop off on one side. And I'm freaking out, driving up this thing in a big heavy news truck. And obviously it's like I have a job to do.
Yeah.
I have to get there on time, but on the way back down, I remember calling the newsroom. And I was like, "Yo, we can't be doing this, man. If we're all about safety. If I'm not allowed to stand on the top of the van, how is this legal?
We're all gonna
how is
die.
this safe? You know. So there's always that sort of balance between your own personal safety and the limitations of the equipment that we have, and following the law, and they don't always mesh together.
Yep.
Or even getting lost up there. I remember when you, for some reason, you ended up on the other side of the mountain, and you called me and says,
I remember this.
and you ended up at the Western White House or something.
Yes,
Oh wow,
good memory.
he's way up there.
Yeah.
But I remember you go,
I should have been on the San Ynez side, and I was on the ocean side of. Anyway, it's. Again,
I don't know how you got up.
This was during the Thomas Guide days,
Yeah.
and I think Google Maps. But we've all lost our ability, to sort of. I think we could regain that ability, but when you bust out a Thomas Guide, to
Survival skills have gone
what
downhill.
the hell are you talking
Yeah.
about?
I was about to say, did we have more picks? We do, don't we? Well, there's her. Okay, there we go.
Oh,
this
the
is-
accident pick.
Speaking of accidents,
Yeah, Subarus. We were debating. I mean, when we were bought by another, I'm not going to say who they are, but anyway, they said, "Oh, well, let you pick a car for the first time." So I researched. I said, "Well, I have a Subaru, and these things are safe." But 2015, they were getting their mileage wasn't great, and then also the next year, their mileage went up almost 15 miles more per
Wow.
gallon. And so we said, "Okay, let's get one," even though there's not a dealership in Santa Barbara, but the one in Ventura that got a lot of advertising. So we got them, and because they're rated pretty high safety-wise, right up there with the Volvos in terms of everything, and this sort of proved it. I mean,
you can see how many airbags were in that thing.
yeah. She, for some reason, some lady decided to do a U-turn while she was on the right side of the road, and it just banged her. And
Yeah, look at all the airbags. Look
But I got there and she said, "God, it was. Look at all the airbags. They're
That's
behind your ear,
Side curtain, yeah.
Wow.
That's
right
impressive.
above, and the."
Herb, were you in this car?
No. It was a reporter, MMJ by herself, Centeray, and there she was sitting over there. So I get there and I said, "God, no, I picked the right car."
Did she hit someone or?
No, someone. She was going down the road, and someone on the right side decided to take a U-turn. At the last second hit her. And that's why I had to push her to the other side of the road.
But knowing the public, though, they still blamed it on the news crew.
Of course.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and plus look at the logos on that.
Reckless news driver.
It's like if you hate Fox, you're going to hate us. If you hate ABC, you're going to hate us too because we have each.
we have everything.
Yeah,
pretty
so
much.
we go to Idle Vista. People say, "Screw you guys, Fox," and then we go into the farmlands. Says, "Screw you guys, ABC."
You can never make everyone happy.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I have a story with you. I think you and I ran into each other at the Topanga fire, like 2003. Do you remember?
I
Do you
remember
that?
running into you out there.
So we're at the Topanga fire. This is off the 210 near Chatsworth. When Chatsworth is on one side, Topanga Canyon's on the other, and we parked.
What car was it?
It was, I don't remember the car, but I was with Sean Callis.
Okay.
So Callis is
Who I work
in LA
with now.
What's that?
Who I work
Oh,
with
you
now.
work with Sean
Yes,
now? Yeah.
yes.
So with Sean and I, we pulled up and we thought, okay, one of the safest places to be, we'll park right next to all the fire trucks. So this is right off the exit, and there's an area where you could park, and all the fire trucks were lined up, and there was a big hill on the other side.
Raging.
And it was raging. The whole mountain was on fire. But we pulled up next to the fire trucks, and they were doing airdrops on that side.
Oh, yeah.
And so we're getting great shots. And so then all of a sudden they do an airdrop and it doesn't put out the fire. So this hillside that's right next to us starts to go up. Oh. Firefighters jump in their trucks. We're going to go to the other side of the freeway. We're getting out of here. So we jump in. We're following them over. We put the key in. One of the firefighters jumps out. He goes, "I think it's the smoke. It's gotten into your air cleaner. We're going to just knock it out. Bam, bam, bam." But we're looking back at the flames coming down at us. They're doing another airdrop. Nope. No, we got to get out of here. So it won't start. So I jump on the phone to Paul Verkamen, who was our news director at the time, and I said, "Paul, Sean and I are just going to grab whatever gear we can. We're just going to let the truck burn." And he goes, "Oh, okay, no problem." Wait a minute, what'd you say? I said, "We got to get out of here. We're going to jump, and we're just going to run. We're going to leave the truck because it's not starting." Luckily, though, it didn't burn the truck, but
Yeah, you guys.
How
we're
close
ready
was
to
the
let
fire?
that thing
Like,
go.
how? I mean,
It was. I mean, you could feel the heat.
Oh, wow,
I mean,
that's
it was.
close
There
enough.
was a whole hillside, and there was a road, and then we were
Wow.
parked. We were parked.
Oh, and I don't know. Maybe Sean won't tell it because he's still employed by them. But at my former station, NBC, there was an incident with a big fire, and it did not result in the same outcome where the vehicle ended up being a total loss during a fire because it could not start. And the photographer and the reporter had to jump in a fire truck and get their butts out of there. And the field shop at NBC, where we used our old building, there were still as sort of mementos of the everyone got out safely. The vehicle was obviously a total loss, but there were still melted pieces of metal that they had on. Again, as in memoriam to this vehicle, melted pieces of metal on the wall, just to sort of remind everybody of this incident. And I've heard a couple different stories about why the vehicle didn't start, but total loss. It was terrifying for the photographer and the reporter.
It was on a mountain road too.
Yeah,
which is a horrible position.
Right,
to be in.
and we all learn, during safety. Look, we're not firefighters, but we have to learn some of the same safety protocols and things like that.
Right.
Where to park, how to park. Park facing outwards. That way, if you have to get your butt out of there quickly, you're not going to have to do a 15-point turn. But there's all these fire apparatus and personnel everywhere. It's very. It's like like. We want to be where the action is, but we also can't be in the way.
Yeah.
And we sometimes will get there before a lot of the apparatus will get there. So maybe we weren't in the way when we first got there, but now with 15 fire trucks there, now we are in the way. And they don't have time to be like, "Hey, where's the crew here? Can you move it so they'll block us in.
Yeah.
Or again, not
Doing it on purpose, right?
not out of malice. They got a job to do.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And so now we're sort of trapped along with them.
Yeah.
I had an incident where I got stuck. Again, we all learn fire behavior and sort of rudimentary things about fire behavior and safe places to be and safe places not to be during a fire. And so you always look for like a natural fire break where there's not a lot of fuel that can and I was covering a fire near, was it Lake Hughes or Castaic, something like that. And before we knew it, the fire jumped the freeway. 360 degrees. I have fire all around. Giant brush that has not burned in God knows how many years.
Wow.
Ash is raining down, and so like I had to use our vehicle as protection, but it also doesn't seem logical. You're sitting in a vehicle with a gas tank and with other things that could catch on fire. So I kept on jumping, going from staying in the van where I'm told it is safe, intuitively or instinctively, it doesn't feel safe necessarily because you've got a giant gas tank. So I kept jumping in and out of the van. Like my body said, get out. You just shield yourself from the embers. And then I would be like, no, this is getting too hot. And I would get back in the van.
Wow.
And it was just one of those situations where, you don't, yes, the vehicle probably, I think, is the safer place to be. But the van ends up being far more than just a mode of transportation for us, or where our equipment is. It becomes our home. Sean has pictures of his family, or at least used to. I don't know if you still do.
No, I got rid of all those.
Oh, you got rid
of my family.
Oh, okay. That's back when you loved them.
Yeah, they're on the cloud somewhere.
But
no more photo albums.
These are mobile offices, and even with the biggest piece of shit that we may be driving, we become attached to them.
Yeah.
Where just like people become attached to an old piece of shit that they've been driving for 25 years, you have an emotional attachment to these vehicles. And I don't know what it is about. You don't have to be a car guy or a girl. You've had experiences in these automobiles, and you can't separate yourself from them. And so even in the short time that I've been in my Unit 67, my Mercedes Metris, I am like very not possessive of it, but I'm already connected to this vehicle where I feel it's not mine, but I feel ownership.
That's awesome.
And there's something about cars. I don't feel like that way about my camera. I don't have a connection to my camera or my tripod or anything like that. I have a connection to the vehicle, even if it's one that's let me down, even if it's one that I've had bad experiences with. I still will have this sort of emotional connection to that vehicle.
Yeah.
And when we eventually get rid of them, there's a little bit of sort of like melancholy or sort of like
a breakup.
An old friend is about to leave.
You see it sadly being towed away in a flatbed.
Oh,
how horrible that is.
Yes, we've seen that
What a horrible look.
many times. Oh, I have lots of pictures of vehicles being towed on a flatbed.
Oh yeah, I mean every story it's all about the car getting you there
That's right.
or getting you out of there.
That both are correct.
So
Dan, do you feel that way about your Corolla? Do you have a relationship or emotional attachment to your Corolla?
You must.
No.
I mean, you call it a vacuum cleaner.
Not
but
really. No. It's a Corolla. I could get another Corolla. Who cares?
Right, but you haven't you had experiences in that Corolla? Haven't you?
Aside from LA traffic.
Yeah. Nothing really
maybe you
memorable.
can't-
No.
Well, we'll talk
Costco
about that off
excursions or
camera.
anything.
Maybe Dan needs to go chase a fire with a Corolla.
Yeah,
and have
there
it-
you go.
Exactly.
You buy something at Costco and you can't fit it in your car.
It's interesting you bring that up because we talked about this. Is like why do we like manual stick shift cars versus like an EV? I have an EV and I have manual stick shift cars, and it's the visceral feeling, the engagement. You get feedback from it. Maybe
the interaction.
Yeah.
It requires effort on your part. You can't be passive when you're driving a manual transmission.
You have to engage with the vehicle.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
It doesn't give you a choice. Whereas my car, you get in. It's
Sure.
It's
go.
like a horse.
You don't have to think about
you
it.
can tell
right?
how it's going to handle the hill, or you're going to
Absolutely. And the older cars,
the timing.
Yeah.
you're feeling everything, every bump in the road, every corner. You're smelling the fuel in the carburetors. It's a very tactile sort of experience, getting in these older things. But
So I don't get that in my Tesla. Like I could
course
care what
not.
happen. I could care less what happens to throw it off a cliff or whatever. I have no attachment to it. But any other car, even if I didn't like the car, you're right. I have some kind of attachment to it because maybe it's because of that feature.
Well, like the VW, you got an attachment to that car, right?
Yeah, I mean that's
A little bit.
Yeah, I mean. Yes, more so than the Tesla. I mean, I don't even call it a car. I call it a toaster. Sure, and it does toast very, very well. But I won't miss my toaster.
I get it.
It's very basic.
Yeah, but any other car that I've had, my wife's Audi or even the diesel VW that I have, it's like, there's a little bit of I care about what happens to it.
Sure.
Yeah, because we had these vibes, and CJ could tell you the story.
The Pontiac Vibe.
Yeah, and we had a new general manager. She was actually a salesperson. She became a general manager, so she was all about. So she
Bottom dollar.
We got a deal.
Yeah, so we wanted to get an SUV, and then she says, "Oh, I got a good deal." Gives us 3 vibes, and they're stick shifts.
All manual vibes.
And the young kids, they don't drive stick. I remember one reporter, we didn't have any other cars, so you learn how to drive stick to Lompoc. So by the time we got to Lompoc, he figured it out. But
Good for him.
as bad as those cars were as news cars, I loved driving them.
Yeah.
Even though I had to try to put my hand and talk on a 2-way radio at the same time.
And shift without jamming your fingers.
But
put some gear right in there by the bam. Oh, shit.
But I had fun because I just felt I was sort of a race car driving.
Yeah,
sure.
Cars, I had put on a logo going up hills. There's a lot of hills in Santa Barbara, but I loved driving those things. But they weren't good. One time I was just sitting on cement, which was a little muddy, and all of a sudden the car just started sliding. And it wasn't that much mud. I was going, okay.
There wasn't that much weight either.
But
But it's about the experiences that we're having and so you don't need to be a car person to have experiences. And,
Absolutely.
In these news trucks, the conversations that we have with the people that we work with, the stress that we're under, the fear that we experience sometimes, this is all connected to this vehicle that we're in.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's as a car guy, but not into those kind of cars. I've learned to appreciate them because I've adopted them into my life.
Yeah.
Not from a performance or drivability perspective, but just we say if these walls could talk, if these live vans could talk and tell about the stories that they've covered, whether it's presidents, it's like we experience history in real time, and it's amazing to think that yes, our eyes and our cameras and our microphones capture these things, but it's the vehicles that we drive. We don't walk anywhere. We take our trucks everywhere. And so when you take a look at an old news van, and at ABC, we've got several that have been retired, and this is not a joke. Every day when I drive in and they're all dusty and they're going to be repurposed or just junked or whatever, I think to myself, what have these vans seen? What part of international history, local history, U.S. history have these vans been a part of?
Yeah.
They need to have a slot at the Peterson. For
I agree.
the news.
That would
the
be
news.
cool,
I'm serious.
actually.
I want to pitch that actually.
No,
to
it's
some
a
people
great
that
idea.
because after hearing how these vehicles are an extension of you and how they make you feel, and just not even understand that side of it. I mean, our viewers are going to see what these vehicles mean. I think they need to, and that's what we're trying to do here, is preserve stories. And I think that has to be preserved as well. The physical,
right.
And that needs, shout out to Peterson. We need to think about, kind of maybe having an installation or even a little pop-up you know, at some point
Yeah.
to do something like that.
I mean,
because-
without those vehicles, you could talk crap about them all you want, but
Right.
without them, these stories aren't going to happen.
They ain't gonna happen.
and your jobs aren't going to get done.
That's
right.
absolutely right. And it's not always that they're good; it's that they're bad. It's like they have their own personalities.
Yeah.
And everyone knows. Oh, Unit 12 has this quirk, or Unit 2 is great, or whatever it is. But you know, I think the joke is, you know, smelly photographers. Well, it's not that we're smelly. it's
gas,
that,
fumes.
It's the environments that we're in. We're eating. We're constantly eating in our live trucks, and so you have sometimes, you know, a decade or more of people eating shitty fast food and spilling on the velour seats.
Yeah.
You know, and so it's you know, olfactory and you know, and they're not, you know, I feel bad. The reporters, you know, they have a, you know, I'm not going to say better hygiene, but they will get in there like, oh, this piece of shit, it smells like garbage, or it smells like, did somebody take a dump in this thing?
Smells like ass.
Oh no, literally, and you have to make the disclaimer like, hey man, I've got great hygiene. I just showered before I came in. If there's a stink in here, it ain't me. You know, but you know, you always, every van everywhere and every news station across the country, you know, or probably the world, you know, it's got its own quirks, its own personality, and a lot of those are being created by those of us that are in them the most. And you know, so we can identify where that stain came from, or I was in a van once and there was a smashed a radio console, and I was like, huh, what happened here? And it kind of looked like a fist mark. And then I inquired, and indeed somebody had a bad day. And
Wow.
you know, so it kind of represents what we do. I was joking with CJ yesterday, the day before, after having just interviewed Tom Hanks when the Academy Museum was opening up, which is right across from the Peterson.
Oh, nice.
On Wilshire. You know, so here we are dealing with all these A-level and every, you know, mover and shaker in Hollywood, and we come back to our van, and a homeless individual had literally smeared feces all over our windows. And I called my boss, and I was like, hey, this is a biohazard. What's our protocol? He goes, Mike, we don't have a protocol. He literally, he's like, I don't know the answer to this.
Car wash.
He goes, just drive it back to our, and so I had to drive from Hollywood back to the car wash with human excrement all over my window, and I'm like trying to hide my face, and you know, I mean, it's humiliating.
These are the stories we were going for. This is what we wanted to know.
Well,
this is the dirt,
That's the
literally.
shitty day.
This was a really shitty day, and I was working with somebody from the New York affiliate who came out to do you know, the entertainment, and he actually said to me, he goes, is this common? And I was like, no, Sandy, it's not common to have shit on my window.
I mean, that's something if you can surprise a New Yorker.
Right? Yeah. Born and
Exactly.
raised New Yorker was like, what's going on in L.A., man? It's like,
Hilarious.
yeah, but again, vehicles, and it was ironic that we were right across from the Peterson Museum.
That's funny.
They could
Oh
only
my God.
see what we were dealing.
We definitely got to plug that to Peterson, man. That would be
Exactly.
Yeah.
And with you being a collector, since you know, that beautiful Alfa is sitting in the parking lot, when you get closer to that point of retirement, would you maybe, if they're auctioning off a van, that kind of thing, would you buy one to put in your collection?
You know, I got to be honest with you. Like most collectors, it's usually the biggest factor is where to put them.
Space,
you know, with space. And even the wealthiest collector still deals with, you know, they run out of space.
Hey, Craig's got some space. Put some money.
Craig,
At the hangar.
Craig's gonna run out of space. We're working on that as we speak.
But I could see you owning one.
Oh no!
'cause it's like
if
you
I
are-
had the room for it, that is a guarantee. And I
nice.
probably would have liked to have purchased something, not just a news vehicle, but something that I actually had
drove.
That's pretty cool.
Had
For sure.
experiences with. Again, these are relationships.
Yeah.
And even as a young child, I would have, you know, nice toys, nice toy cars, and then like the shitty ones or ones that you didn't like as much. I felt an emotional connection, and I actually would feel bad for the car that I didn't use because I didn't like it or because it was too crappy or whatever. I felt like it was a human being that I was neglecting or that was being left out. And so I feel the same thing with all vehicles. It doesn't have to.
You're the car empath.
Well, yes, it runs in the family. I can assure you. My dad's never. He's in the he's vintage car guru aficionado.
And your dad's had some airtime on the show. We were talking
thank you
about
for
Porsche
mentioning
331
Thank you.
with Craig Lichtenstein. What show was that? Number 2?
Number three.
That was number three.
Yeah, it was. You were part of that. Your dad was part of it in helping Craig buy that car.
I think that makes it even more interesting about how much you would purchase that van.
Oh, yeah.
Is that you're dealing with like multi-million-dollar cars or very expensive cars. If you had like an Alfa and a Jag and a Porsche and this, and then you have this new van in a stable, you're like, what's that?
Bring it to Cars and Coffee. Cars and Coffee all the way.
Oh my! If you guys ever buy one of those, bring it to Cars and Coffee. I guarantee it'll be a showstopper. 100%
People stop us all the time, and they want to see what's in a news van.
Yeah.
And that's part of the community outreach. Is like, hey, we're not just if you don't care about the subject matter, maybe you care about just this cool truck that's a studio on wheels.
Yeah,
exactly.
But if you do that, you have to wash the windows.
Yeah. Somewhere I actually have pictures that I did text to my boss.
Disgusting.
I kind of want to see it.
Morbid curiosity. Right?
Well, homeless diarrhea is not something.
That paints a picture.
Did we eat corn?
Do we?
Homeless diarrhea on the Miracle Month.
Okay.
Yes, on the Miracle Month.
It was a miracle.
Can we redirect, please?
Okay.
I was about to say, is this where we wrap it up?
No,
Oh yeah, this is a great way to end the show.
It's
probably
a great way to end the show.
Great way to end the show.
The last image I had of West of Tulsa was this shit all over a window.
In news, we call that a natural out.
Yeah,
That's right. I do have one question, and we don't have to go deep into it, but I know we've touched upon kind of reverting back to analog situations. But has any of the stations out there, including yours and who you're working for now, tapped into the EV, like trying to or hybrid vehicles, or no? They're keeping it gas, and like.
The difference is whether or not how you're going to power that vehicle.
Got it.
All the vehicles now that we're buying have huge battery systems in them, to where we can shut down the truck and not power it off the engine anymore and just go off battery power for 7 or 8 hours. I still have a shitty old truck that runs off of gas, but the next gen trucks actually have solar panels on top too.
Oh, wow. I see.
That will supplement. So we're getting there, but it's not there yet.
For our needs, we need something that isn't gonna. We need something that has a quick ability to refuel, and there's gas stations everywhere.
Yeah.
And we're going to be on scene sometimes with the engine running.
Yeah.
For 12 or 14 hours at a time. And we're just not there yet.
And yet people bringing you guys fuel on long shoots, right? So you can bring power, really.
We've had that before, or either we can't escape where we're trapped somewhere, or for whatever, or we don't want to lose our spot. And so, we have people bring us fuel and things like that. But, again, it's a good idea, but we're just not there, like, technologically yet. We have far too many needs electronically, that are going to draw from powers and draw from batteries, but it's just not stable and long lasting enough.
Yeah. Speaking of that, you guys have had many different vehicles, trucks, cars, vans, whatever. What would be each of your favorite? What's the best truck that you guys ever used working?
For me, it was
and I will say this: once they answer this, we have to wrap it up because I know Sean's got to get out of here. He's got a birthday party. For
Yes.
So we do have to do that. So we'll leave this on a great note.
Yes.
What's
not shit. Not shit.
No.
not shit.
I will personally say the Ford Econo van, the E350, that was. And maybe it's nostalgic for me because that's what I started on. But I think that was the workhorse for the lion's share of most of our careers. They lasted the longest. After we switched to the Nissans, they didn't last very long. And there aren't a lot of V10s out there anymore. I think we just at ABC. I think we just switched we went back to a Ford, but they're not making the V10 anymore, so it's all smaller. So for me, it's the Triton V10.
Nice.
How about you, Sean?
I think what you said, although it's a Ford. I don't know.
Yeah, it's
much
the
more
same
than
van.
that. Plus, it can make the Kessel run in 12 parsecs. I told you I'd get a Star Wars reference.
That's important.
in there.
That's important. Well, that's a good segue to Yoda.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about for you?
Well, we didn't travel in the live trucks that much, so it was mainly just the news vehicles. And my favorite was a Subaru Outback.
Nice.
And for some reason, we didn't logo it because we needed one car when we did our investigative reports.
Right.
And then I remember during COVID, John Palminteri would have to sit in the back seat. So this is the black. So we would drive up to people, and he would roll his window. This guy from, he was proud Sicilian guy, and it was like I was at Cato driving this Italian. And John loved it. So he probably loved that car more than I did. I loved it because he had
What? Because you chauffeured him around, or what?
Well, yeah. It looked like that. We would drive up
That's
the store
funny.
and he parked, and he'd roll back the back window, JP here, how he would do that. And so on top of that, I had the sunroof, and talk about airing out the car.
Oh God.
So I loved it. In Santa Barbara, you got to have a sunroof.
Yeah.
So, driving on a good spring day to Lompoc was fun.
That's cool.
So that was, and it was safe. That thing was a
Yeah.
People think we're drivers. I don't know if it's sometimes people be like, they'll just be like, "Oh, you're the driver." I'm like, "No, I'm a journalist." It's like, maybe that's just my ego, but no, it's. I think the amount of mileage and the amount of experiences that we have, just to sort of, I guess, sum everything up, without these vehicles, without these vans, these cars, these hybrids, these dual purpose, we would be nothing. We would be nothing in our industry, and maybe we take it for granted, but they are again intrinsically connected to what we do. Where without a van, it's almost like saying without a camera. I got to get my butt here, and my zoom lens isn't that long.
Oh yeah, exactly.
That's good.
So I'm going to wrap it up with this. Do you know how many In-N-Out burgers Herb and I have had in our live van?
That's all he eats is In-N-Out
Yeah,
burger.
me. First thing he does, picks me up at 8:00 in the morning. Goes, where are we gonna have lunch? In-N-Out.
Well, because I know you always pick it. There's only one in Santa Barbara.
Yeah, so all the live vans at KEYT right now smell like In-N-Out.
Oh yeah.
I think
animal fries.
across California, I think they all smell like.
Smell like In-N-Out.
But again, that's why I like my Mercedes. I can go through drive-throughs, no problem.
It's not too big.
Yeah.
Not too big. No height clearance issues.
Yeah.
All right. So, hey, next time you see one of these guys driving a news van, be nice.
Yeah, no middle fingers, please.
And no feces. No feces, please.
They're real nice guys. They really are real nice guys. All right. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe. We also have our YouTube
Channel.
Thank you. And our tip line. So go to our website, click on the tip line. We would love to have you on our show. We'd love to hear your story. So contact us that way. Thanks for watching us. We'll see you west of Tulsa.